Introducing the system. So the system is designed to enable you to understand where your funds are going and where they are coming from, which will enable you to have a total understanding of where your finances are and your financial state, right? So we're going to amalgamate all the accounts you have, put them into a nice, solid ledger. This allows you to take ownership of your finances so that you can invest in big things in the future, such as a second home or a private jet or an island. There's a lot of different islands out there that you can purchase that are actually fairly reasonably priced, or maybe you want to get a gift for someone or for everybody. Flower subscription boxes. I don't know. These are things you can buy in the future if you want. To begin, this is a three-step process that we will follow to set the foundation for where we want to be. So the first thing is to gather. The second thing is to download and format. The third thing is to categorize. When we are gathering, we are just identifying all of the accounts that we have. We are writing down their login information because what we want to do is we want to have a definitive list of all the financial accounts so that we can make it easy for ourselves to go in and check on the status at any time. And it needs to be regularly. Also, there are some cybersecurity considerations that we need to take into account, and we'll go through those. Second thing, download and format. This is when you log in to your accounts, you download 60 to 90 days of transactional information, and you make sure that that can be easily inserted into the system. And the outcome for that is to have a formatted table that establishes the initial and the current balances in the system. The third thing is to categorize. This is where we look at each transaction and we name the occasions where those transactions fall into our lives. This will give us all the categories our expenses have fallen into. And I have a list of categories for reference. So, after this has been set up, we are going to go into entering the initial balances into the system. We're going to talk about funds transfers within the system, and then I'll show you the algorithms behind why the system works. That is the beauty of the system. So all of this is meant to enable us to begin recording expenses and set up our financial state. So let's begin by gathering. Okay, so the first step is to gather the accounts. And in gathering, we're going to identify which accounts we have, which accounts we use to store money or credit. The goal of this is to find all of the accounts you have to give yourself an entire picture of your financial state. So you'll know where funds are coming from and where they're going to. If you don't include an account, you won't have visibility into that account, and you might be surprised if something happens to that account. That sounds like a mafia threat. It is not. So think about what accounts you use to store money or credit. These could be local checking or savings accounts, or they could be a local credit account. They could be medium-term international checkings or savings accounts, right? Medium term. Maybe they are a small transaction top-up account like Venmo or Monzo or Oval Money, or maybe Apple Wallet. Maybe you use an Apple Wallet. Maybe they are a long-term tax-advantaged account like a pension fund, a pension account. Or a retirement account, or maybe it is a brokerage account. I only check that once a month just because it could get overwhelming to just see all the transactions happening. So I recommend some accounts you use more often than others, but definitely look at them at least once a month. This process may take an hour, and it is important to log all of the account details on the sheet, and I'll show you exactly where. We go into account details, and I've started this a little bit. The way I would go about doing this is by, once you've figured out which accounts you have, I'm going to actually change this to being somewhere else. Once you have them, they will input here. And we can see where we have everything. Then, once you have outlined all your accounts, go to the websites and take the link that brings you into the login area and put that link right here. Then, as the website brings you through the journey, you just record those pieces of information, right? If it's last name or first name, whatever, Jagger, maybe you're Mick Jagger. Then you enter your sort code, put that in here, account number, put that in here, passcode, etc., etc. Do that for each one of these accounts. And a note about cybersecurity, it's very important to create challenging passwords and also update them regularly. So one way to create a passcode is to act like a cat walking on a keyboard. With your left, just do this. And then enter. It's a pretty strong passcode. Put an exclamation point or an ampersand at the front, if it allows, and just keep it right there. This makes it very hard to change password or to crack a passcode. If you don't want to put all your passcodes in one place or in this file, write them down and just put a example of what it might be. If you know that this one is I love guitars with some things in the middle, you just put I love blah blah blah, and then you put some periods in there. Done. Now, so the exercise is going through all of the accounts again and making sure that it's easy to get to the next step, which is logging in and downloading your details. So let's go to downloading. Now that we have gathered all of our accounts, we are going to start downloading the transaction data from those accounts and formatting them to fit into the system. We're going to go into the accounts that you have already put in your accounts tabs. We're going to use that link, drive to the account website, log in, and download the transactions for at least the last month. So then export this file to an Excel or a CSV file. And once you've done that, you get your shiny expenses. This is the document that they have spit out to us. As you can see, the columns are not quite aligned to the ones that we want, and so I need to copy and paste those in here so that they align better with our master document, so we can copy and paste it very easily. That's okay. The first thing we want to do is to figure out the formatting, make sure that is correct. And two key things here. The first one is that dates and amounts need to be numbers and not text. These are stored as text, as you can see, count 2, and it has text in it, of course. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert this to a number format. First, we can see if it's ready to go to numbers. It is not. Date. I'm going to switch this to this date syndication. I like a 4-number year. Let's do that. So it is not numbers. So what we're going to do is, if it were numbers, it would be 26/02/2019. But it's obviously not numbers. So we're going to do a text to columns edit. I'm going to make this a delimited. And it's just going to put it as let's put it. There we go. Text to columns. Now it is numbers and not text. I'm going to do the same thing here. As you can see, this is also considered text because it says count 2. It does not give us a sum. So we want it to give us a sum. So we're going to select them all by doing Shift Command down, select everything. Then we're going to, you can see this right here. It's a little yield sign, which is perfect. That's what we want. We could do a text to columns, does the same thing. We're just going to convert this to a number. Takes a little while, so just give it a second. There we go. Okay, so now this is going to be a number because it says sum at the bottom, which is what you want. Gives you a sum. Perfect. So now we can start deleting some of these unnecessary columns. I'm going to take out these ones right here. They're unnecessary. Just gonna, so that's a shift and then click. It takes the whole, all the elements and it brings it down. Then I'm going to do doing business as is great because it helps you categorize farther than the actual description, right? My taxi Deutschland, right? Doing business as is great because it helps you categorize. So we're going to put that into the store category. That's going to be our store. Merchant address, unnecessary. Additional information and categories. Because these categories do not follow the same taxonomy as my or your personal occasional spending, and when I say occasional, I mean the occasions under which you are completing a transaction. Maybe that's a trip, maybe that's a business expense. It does not take into account those categorizations, so I'm not going to use them. Okay, so this leaves us with a few different things. We're going to make sure these are in the right place. I do not want the date processed, I want the date transacted. So these are not what I'm going to be using. This is the date that was transacted. The amount, I'm going to take this amount, put it right here. Account, that's the description, right? So we're going to take this and we're going to put it in the description. This is only for past expenses. In the future, I'll probably say, oh, I got groceries and wine at Sainsbury, or I got a, I don't know, I got a couch at IKEA. But for the purposes of a retroactive transaction download and categorization, I will use the descriptions that they have. Account, this is all, what was this, Amex? For this account, actually, I'm not going to type it in. I'm going to go into our, I'm going to go into here, account detail, I'm going to go into inputs, and I'm going to make sure that it's the same credit account spelling as it is in our inputs, because that helps us do data validation. So I'm just going to paste it in there. Double click that so it goes all the way down, everything is exactly the same. Category, this is the next job that we have. It is, we're going to fill in these categories so that we can itemize where we spend. And that is the next job. So let's move on to categorization. Start the categorization. I need to make sure all of these are negative transactions because we are giving money away from our credit account, even though credit is inherently negative. This is a negative transaction. So we want to make sure that it is negative. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, multiply, we're going to multiply each of these by -1 in a very fast way. I'm just going to copy that. We're going to select all of these, and we're going to paste them as special and multiply by that initial number. And as you will see, they will all be negative in the next, oh, where'd it go? Hold on a second. Oh, they're there. They're negative. Cool. So they're all negative. I'm going to make them pounds or a currency just in case. Boom, negative. All right, let's start the categorization. I'm going to start doing all of them, but I'm not going to do every single one just to speed up the process, but you'll get it. So what I do is I look for 3 or more transactions in here. We got My Taxi, we got Uber. Uber's got a lot. So here we go. We'll say Uber. This is because I can batch these. I'm calling this transport. Unless it is a business expense. So let's say some of these, this is going to be a business expense. So I'll say my work expense. So boom, and then boom. Can we call that word of expense? The next thing, I'm sure Starbucks is a main component of this. Starbucks, boom, Starbucks. So I'm just searching in the description. You can also search in the store. That's fine, but you won't see as many differentiations. Coffee. And we're going to copy and paste that to all of them. Boom. Alright. Next, Amazon. And Amazon is a pain because it has so many different types to. I'm not going to do Amazon because I don't even know what to call it. Actually, I'll just call it Amazon. Amazon is a pain because it's not very easy to download your transaction history on an item-by-item basis unless you're doing it every day. It's just a pain in the ass. Let's keep going. Deliveroo. This is going to be massive. We use Deliveroo a lot. Food delivery. You also call it eating in, but whatever you like. I'm just going to call it food delivery because that's what I'm used to. Okay, let's do a couple others that have a lot. My Taxi. So these are work expenses because they're out of town, and I know they're work expenses. Alright. Let's look what else we got in here. Select them all. Starbucks, we got that. Uber Trip, My Taxi, IKEA, ClassPass. Maybe let's see what ClassPass. Oh, there's only one ClassPass. We'll just call this health, and this. So let's call health and fitness now. There's not as many of the consistent purchases every month. That's how many are the Real Greek. Oh, 2 at the Real Greek. Not bad. This is a Ryan work lunch. Get this for lunch at work. And this thing starts to fill in just because it sees the habits, but we'll get to that later. That's called data validation. Okay, so this leaves us with a good list of expenses, but it still doesn't cover everything. So at this point we have 43 of 140. We have 100 more transactions to go. So for the purposes of this example, I am not going to do them all. I'm only going to do 20 because I want to save time. And let's finish these last few. I'm going to call this IKEA furniture. Oh, should have done Sainsbury's. Groceries. TFL, so this is transport. This is transport for London. Star of Kings, that's fun with friends. Because we went to a pub for a birthday party. Fun with friends. All 3 of this. So we had dinner out. Dinner out. Transport for London, so transport again. Star of Kings, fun with friends. Let's do that. Copy and paste it. Zizzy, we had dinner that night, so dinner out. You know what? Actually, this was drinks out. This is not dinner out, so I'm just going to change it. Sainsbury's. Groceries and wine. You know, I'm going to call this grocery. No, this is probably not groceries because it's so little. Groceries. And this one is definitely groceries. And wine. Okay, so now we have these categories. This is our categorization, and we can use this to create our initial balance. This is how you're going to do it. Now that we have our categories, we are almost ready to put the transactions into the system. First, we need to input our initial balances. We can do this by taking the current balance and adding in past transactions. I want a current balance to be nice and clean, so I've made it a hypothetical £1,000. The current balance is the balance I have today. It's the one you go and find in the at the website of your account when you log in. To find the initial balance, for this example, we're going to work backwards and incorporate every past transaction from the account. So we're going to add all of these transactions we've done to the current balance to get the initial balance. Because the transactions are negative transactions, and because the account we're working with in this example is a credit account, and therefore it is also negative, we want to subtract the negative transaction from the current negative balance, thereby reducing the negative balance. So it's like negative 100 minus negative 50 is negative 50. If it is a checking account, you're starting with a positive balance, ideally, so you just add in that negative balance, you subtract. Our current balance is £1,000 currently, and the value of these transactions, as you can see, I've just added these up together, and it is negative 380.66. So the initial balance is, as you can see, the formula here. I've just taken these, I've subtracted that, and it gives me 619.34 because I am subtracting a negative. I'm adding that to that effectively. Alright, so we're going to put 619.34 into the first line of the system, and I've already done it here. 619.34. I've also added in a gradual level of initial balances for each account, each hypothetical account here. Now is your turn to do that for each account. And remember, credit is negative. Another thing to remember, this system does not care about what currency your accounts are in, so I just keep it all in one currency, with the number being the value rather than the currency. This is done for simplicity. So pause and do your initial balances now. Okay, I'm going to show you how the algorithm works. And what I've done is I've taken these transactions and I've just copied and pasted and put them in here. Put them right here. I'm going to put the rest in there too now. We have them all in our nice little format, so that's perfect. Copy, paste. So we'll do that. Okay. And as you can see, this name is the exact same as this name. So, this is how the system works. Let's look at our algorithm. Why this thing works the way it does. First, we're going to look at the balance ledger. Now that we've filled in some transactions in the checkbook, we're going to see how they all work together. So we have a checkbook, a balance ledger, and our, this is called the transaction flow statement. It's called the transaction flow statement. The balance ledger. This is what keeps a rolling tally of each account balance for each transaction you enter. So the balance column adds the sum, of each of the transactions as they come in. Each account column shows the most recent account balance as dictated by the newest additions in the transaction flow statement. So it just says that plus that equals this. That plus this equals this. It knows to read this because how do we have this populated over here? 4715. The transaction flow statement is where each transaction is accounted for. So as we added in new transactions, it said if this account is the same as this, put in C52, right? And C52 is that. So, if this is the same as this, add in this. If not, add in 0. So let's change the account, for example, where this came from, and let's move it to a different account to see what happens in our balance ledger. So we're just going to change this to a different account. We're going to put it in this HSBC checking, right? Hypothetically, let's say it came from a different account. So this number, 4715, falls under this because this account is the same as this account name, so that is populated here, not here. So that explains why when we go here, if amount is 0, put nothing. But if the amount is not 0, add this number to this number, which is 0. And it comes out that number. Similarly, if this is 0, which it is not, and never will be, put nothing. But if it's not 0, add that to that. And that's what it comes out as. I hope this makes sense. I'm going to change it back. Because what we have, as we stated earlier, we wanted our initial balance to be 1,000. It is 1,000 because we added all those transactions in, and they added up to 1,000. Boom. So, the checkbook feeds the transaction flow statement, which feeds the balance ledger, which gives us our balance after every transaction. One thing I do want to talk about is fund transfers. For fund transfers, 2 transactions are required. One for the fund going in and one for the funds going out. So let's look at this example. Maybe it's white for fun. Okay, let's just change this. So let's, for example, say you have a standing order to put £100 in your checking account or in your savings account every week. Let's do this. So we're going to put in, I'm just going to copy and paste it. Okay. So we're going to put in 2 transactions here. I'm going to make it on the 23rd. And we're going to also make this on the 23rd. So what we're doing here, because one transaction is money going out of HSBC, which you can see right here, negative 100. One transaction is going into OVO Money, which you can see here, 4,000 plus 100. Funds transfer, that's the description. Funds transfer is also the category. It's easy that way. Let's name the description. Money to let's just call it the same thing. And let's look over here. So this is money coming in to OVO Money. This is money going out of HSBC. Boom. Those. And we're just going to clear these because for all intents and purposes it is clear. And it was so much better. It was clear. And that is the system. Hope you enjoy.